शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ श्रीचूडारुणविग्रहां त्रिनयनां माणिक्यमौलिस्फुरत्तारानायकशेखरां स्मितमुखीमापीनवक्षोरुहां पाणिभ्यां मलिपूर्णरत्नचषकं रक्तोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत् परामम्बिकाम्। ॐ ध्यायेन्नित्यं महेशम् रजतगिरिनिभं चारुचन्द्रावतंसं रत्नाकल्पोज्ज्वलाङ्गं परशुमृगवराभीतिहस्तं प्रसन्नं पद्मासीनं समन्तात् स्तुतममरगणैः व्याघ्रकृत्तिं वसानं विश्वाद्यं विश्वबीजं निखिलभयहरं पञ्चवक्त्रं त्रिनेत्रम्। ॐ नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। Namaste everyone. So shall we do our recitation as planned? Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. Shri Bhagavan uvacha Klaibyam asmagama partha naitattvayupapadyate shudram hridaya daurbalyam yaktvottishta parantapa ashocyananvashocastvam prajnavadanscha bhashase gatasu nagatasuscha nanushocanti panditaः न त्वेवाहं चातुलासं न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपाः न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम् देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिः धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदा आगमापायिनो अनित्याः तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत अविनाशि तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वमिदं ततं विनाशम् अव्ययस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हसि antavanta ime deha nityasyoktah sharirinah anashino aprameyyasya tasmadyudhyasva bharata yaenam vetti antaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuyah ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naroparani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णान्यन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः. I think we have come till 223. We have yet to do that one, to 1220, 227. So namaste everyone. Very nice to see you all back here. So I had a look at quite a few of your responses to the assignments. It was very nice. So I think the last one particularly, what I was trying to ascertain is that everyone comes with a good intention. We call that shubhecha, right? Shubhecha is the first step in the sequence of spiritual growth. If you go and look at some of the classic texts, shubhecha is the first step. It's very important. So that's a very good thing. The question then arises, how to cultivate, how to water that seed, how to make it grow, right? So this second assignment was intended to understand that. So one has a good intention, but then we have to kind of assess, like a general assesses the situation of the army, right? What are the obstacles? What are the challenges, right? Where are the resources available, right? How can I apply the appropriate resources in the place where attack is needed, right? So just like the general does that, the purpose of the second assignment is to ascertain how busy are you, right? How much sleep do you get? These are very important questions. Sleep is directly connected to your physical health. If physical health is not there, it is not possible to undertake this kind of an inquiry, right? If you go and look in Yoga Sutra, one of the first obstacle in Yoga Sutra is Vyadhi. Vyadhi is disease. Unwell person cannot undertake. Right? Okay, so if health is safeguarded and you're getting enough sleep, then the next question is, there must be an intention, right? Strong intent. Okay, what is the intention? How important is this to you? That's why I asked, one of the questions was, scale of 1 to 10, let us take like a general assesses the forces. How important? There is a set of priorities. You're all, according to our classification, grahasthis, typically. There are some vidyarthis and brahmacharis here too. So that stage of life, there are many obligations, family obligations to children, parents, etc. Work. But it's important to be realistic. So suppose I want to read, spend some time on Bhagavad Gita, study outside the class, right? So it is good to prioritize. Now, obviously, if there are certain things that you will be called upon to do, which you cannot say, no, I won't do this, right? If an infant is crying and wants food, at that point, mother cannot say, no, I'm reading Gita, right? You have to be practical. So it comes somewhere in that sequence from 1 to 10. So I said, first identify that. Identify where it stands. There is no criticism implied, but one must be realistic, right? The next question is, where do you want it to be? Okay. How important do you want it to be? Hmm? Then sometimes things are important to us, but we defer them for later, right? In fact, there is a in that assignment I referenced this guy Stephen Covey. It's a very nice book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. There's a lot of wisdom in day-to-day management science also, right? So in that he says, in time management, he says if you make a quadrant analysis, he says what is important, important and urgent, urgent, and then something that's not important and not urgent. And then his thinking says that try to move your activities more into the important range, because that will then prevent it from becoming urgent at an inopportune moment. So first you have to decide. I cannot tell you how important Gita has to be. That's for you to decide, right? It's a very personal quest. That's why I emphasize one can read the verses, right? There are many great people who have read the verses. You can hear recordings online nowadays. Thanks to the internet, we can access anything at any time. In fact, one can go further and say you don't even need the Bhagavad Gita to attain the ultimate goal, because I read for you from Rumi or Jesus Christ. They didn't read the Gita, but they attained the ultimate goal, right? So even that is not necessary. But if you have chosen with Shubhecha, with a good intention to start this, then a rational person must apply the procedure that I'm outlining, right? You must then ask yourself, well, how important is this? And at this stage in life, and how important do I want it to be? How urgent is it? How urgent do I want it to be? So these are useful exercises. I suggest you do them for your own benefit. If you share with me, as some of you have done, it will give me a better idea. And some of those responses I will share with you anonymized again, and they're very useful for us to understand. Main thing to keep in mind is there is no criticism implied. Everybody approaches this in a state of perfection. Okay. The question is you have to realize that perfection, right? So if one comes with that kind of an open heart, it will be very powerful, very useful. So one of the things that also caused some challenge was I said, what is your daily tapasya in the assignment? So this is a tricky question, right? So normally our image of tapasya is usually someone like Ravana doing vrikshasana for 10,000 years, right? You remember? Shailesh must have seen this in Amar Chitra Katha, right? That's an ideal image we have. And then we may feel that I'm not doing any tapasya. But tapasya is a relative thing, okay? At every stage in your life, you can do even small things are tapasyas, right? Any self-restraint. Like I was telling Pranav the other day, if somebody is used to eating 18 gulab jamuns a day, one day they eat 16, that's tapasya. Why? Because they have restrained themselves from 18 to 16, right? Do you see what I'm trying to say? So again, we have to really understand what is the intent. So at any time, and you're all doing this, the funny thing is you may not realize it, right? You're all restraining yourself at some time. When you do it consciously, then and with a purpose, then it has a wholly different impact. It becomes transformative. You are doing these things, but as I said, with the awareness. Okay, many of you I know sometimes will go on a diet, or you may have some medical reasons that you're being highly self-restrained, right? And all that is good. So it's not a trick question, right? It is mainly to examine oneself and say, okay, how am I, in my own assessment, standing on these things? Okay. Then I asked you, how do you express your devotion to the Lord daily? Because why did I ask these two questions? Because in 18th chapter it said, na atapasya and na abhaktaya. So I'm asking you, you ask yourself. You don't, this is your own self-assessment, right? And you decide, is this good? Do I want to do more? If you want to do more, do more. If you're happy with what you're doing, no problem, right? There's no judgment. There is no bar that everybody has to meet. But you have to ask yourself this question. This is important, right? Because it's a question of consistency, correct? We are all human beings, intelligent. That divine intelligence has been given to everyone, I told you, supreme intelligence. How does it reflect? It reflects by applying the principles, right? Okay, very good. Now, another thing that came to me last time struck me, we talked about this question of, is Guru or God accessible? Right? So last time I said, if you're a mechanical engineering student and you disagree with the definition of mechanical engineering, you can go and talk to the chair of the department. You don't disagree with the chair, you can go talk to the provost. There is a hierarchy. Similarly, in our thing, there's a hierarchy. The hierarchy is, if you don't agree with me, you can ask my guru. If you don't agree with my guru, you can ask God. Right? And this may seem like a flippant statement, that, or a statement that, oh, that's impossible. Okay, but you must examine that very carefully. This is a very important point. Let me give you an example. How many times, so many of you have children, you have interacted with young children, a child comes up and says to the parent or teacher, I cannot do math. Have you heard that? I cannot do X, substitute math, whatever you want, right? Does it happen or not? Does it happen? No? You have not experienced this? It happens, right? So, how, or I will never succeed at this. This is another point that comes. I'll never succeed at this. I'll never do well at this, right? So, how do you react? Do you say, no, you won't? Go home, end of story. No, do you not say that? No parent will say that, right? Correct? What do you say? You say, no. If you try, if you apply yourself, if you change your attitude, you can do it. Correct? Okay. So, what do you think? Should we just give up on the possibility of asking these questions to Guru or God? No, you should not. You should not. Never. Right? You must be ready for that direct experience, that direct questioning. Right? What do you say? Analogy is not.
Yes. I read once that said that, so I think you also mentioned in this Atman, or the true self we have, right? So it is also a manifestation of God, right? That's what I think so at some point I think this was a book that said, I think it was called Gita for Children. I think and they said, when you're in a quandary, you listen to that your inner voice is telling you to do something.
Right.
Sometimes it's not an easy thing to do, in the sense that what the inner voice is asking you to do is not an easy thing to do.
That's right.
But they presented an argument saying that perhaps that is some link or manifestation of the true self.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So in some sense, when you say a question, go ask God, it might be something that you reflect inwards and see, is this something that you really want to do, or what the question is, and maybe that's one avenue.
That's very nice. Exactly. So you're absolutely right. That the inner voice, which often becomes very faint if we don't cultivate it and listen to it, it's a reflection exactly of the Lord, of the divine within us. Right? So thank you. That is a very nice. Because the point is, sometimes because of the way we are in the world and things, we tend to put things off as inaccessible, right? And one of the first things, if you want to accomplish anything in life, is you have to at least conceive that it's accessible. Right? So that's all I will say. Keep that open. Don't shut that door, right? This can always happen. So, of course, another reason that sometimes we are reluctant to open that door is we have heard that it's very hard, right? It's very hard. I will never be able to do it, right? This is true of, you can say, some things in the worldly sphere, but in the divine sphere, in the sphere of the spiritual sphere, God has not been partial to anyone. Okay, He's given everybody the same tools. This you must be very convinced about, right? There is no partiality. Okay, no one has been given anything special. Okay, so one should have faith in that. That is Paurusham, right? Why am I condemned to not access this? That should be the attitude. That will convert your Shubhecha. This attitude will make that grow very strong. That sapling will become a tree, right? So these are some points. Then let me give you two of my suggestions. I told you there are two questions. I said, how important is Bhagavad Gita to you? How urgent is it to you? Okay? So I'll give you two analogies and you decide for yourself. So how many of you have run a race? A running race? Yeah. You all run a race? Some point in your life, not recently. Some point you've run a race, even as a child, right? Okay. So when you run the race, there is something you have to do at that point that say you have completed the race. Correct? What is that thing you have to do? Cross the line or breast the tape. If it's a very advanced race where there are some good runners, they may have a tape, right? You have to breast the tape or you have to cross the line, right? So there are some instances where people ran all the way but didn't do that and didn't get the prize or the certificate of completion. Correct? Right. So if you're preparing to run a race, you might say that the most important thing is you should know what to do at the end, right? Like if an idiot toils to run 99% of the race but doesn't know what to do at the end, what will be the fate of that person? Not achieve it. Right. You will not achieve the goal at the end of doing all the hard work, right? So now, what is the analogy here? We are all living a human life, human existence, right? What is at the end of, what is the finish line at the end of all human existence? Yeah. So if we don't know what to do at that point, what will be the utility of 99% of the effort? You tell me that. It'll be like running the race without knowing what is the tape I have to breast, what is the line I have to cross. It'll be a complete waste. So now tell me, how important is the Bhagavad Gita? It's as important as knowing what to do at the finish line. That's how important it is. Because without that, you can run the whole race, but the last instant you'll not know what to do. Right? And so the whole human life, all the efforts, right? All the striving will not bear fruit. Right? So now Bhagavan Sri Krishna will tell us what is to be done at the finish line. So let me give you another example, another analogy, right? You've all been in these parking lots, multi-level parking lots, right? So let us think of a parking lot, 7 levels, right? When you go in these parking lots, what happens? You start driving and there are 2 signs, right? What does one sign say? Exit. Thank you, exit. The other one says? Park. So, very good. So at every time you have 2 choices at every level. You can either park or you can exit. Correct? If you choose the park, can you get out of the parking lot? If you choose the park option, you cannot, right? You'll either continue at the same level or you may go to the next level. Okay? Now think of this. Bhur Bhuva Suva Mahajana Tapa, 7 levels. Satya. Beyond that. Right? So, human Bhulok, you are doing 1 chakra. If you know which exit to take at the right time, you can exit. Or it will be continuing circling the parking lot looking for parking. Right? By chance, you may go to the next level. Right? Pitrulok, Swarglok, so on. Mahajana Tapa, where the Siddhas live. Tapalok, Satyalok. But how to find the exit? That's crucial. That's what our deep Indian philosophy is trying to teach us. Right? How to exit the parking lot. Right? Does that make sense now? Is the importance of it clear? Right? And what Sri Adi Shankaracharya is saying is, after 80 crore births, you have taken this human birth. Right? Okay? So one needs to have a sense of time and experience of this jiva. You may think you are whatever years old, but that's not the case. There's been a lot of experience before, prior, that has brought you to this beautiful, perfected human state. Right? Now from here, what is the next step? This we must carefully consider. So importance, I've given you some hints through the analogies, hopefully. let us look at urgency. So we have a very distinguished doctor in our midst. So I'm going to ask a question, humble question. So doctor, can you guarantee on a piece of paper that 100% I will be alive next week, next Saturday for next Saturday's class?
I cannot guarantee next second.
Yes, thank you. He cannot, even though he's extremely skilled, right? And routinely saves many lives. Okay. And he gave the answer bang like that because he knows. Right? So this Sri Adi Shankaracharya says in a verse, Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam tadvat jivita matishaya chapalam vidhi vyadhya abhimana grastam lokam shokahatam cha samastam. So what does it mean? Like if you look at a lotus leaf and you see a drop on it, it's quivering, right? That uncertain is human life. And it's always beset by our desires, right? Matishaya chapalam. It is, know that it is vyadhi. Anytime there is illness, and also our ego is holding us tight, right? So considering that carefully, one must understand what is human life exactly, right? How is it tied in this human sphere, right? So we assume just because yesterday I woke up and everything was good, we are going along very blindly a little bit, right? And it's natural. I'm not trying to say point fingers at anybody. This is natural to all of us. It's a human condition. It's a human condition. Human condition is to assume it will just be like that tomorrow also. But when we pause and think, then we realize, oh, this is not such a, even this great doctor cannot give me an assurance. For next second, he said, right? That's a pretty dire statement, correct? So that is we'll give you some thought about importance and urgency, right? Is it important? You can ask yourself. Is it urgent? You can ask yourself. Then depending on that, you must make your plan accordingly, right? So, and luckily we are now here, at least we are able to spend this time together to look at it. Now, last time where we left it was the verse 225. So what was that verse? And what did we take from it? It said, actually 24, I believe.
24, yeah.
We finished. Achedyo ayam, adahyo ayam, akledyo, ashoshya evacha, nityah sarvagatah sthano achalo ayam sanatana. So this is, the self cannot be cut, achedyo, burned, adahyo, akledyo, not wetted, or ashoshya, or dried. And so it is eternal, nityah, sarvagatah, all pervasive, sthano, stable, achala, immovable, and everlasting. So this is the first point we learned is these are all pertaining to the physical body. Okay? So only something physical can be cut. It can be burned or wetted or dried. So insofar as we think we are the physical body, these properties, since they do not apply to the self, by inference, one can say that this body must not be the true self. That is being referred to here. So then I said that, so then what is the true self? And there the Taittiriya Upanishad comes to our rescue and tells us, okay, what is this true self? So the Taittiriya Upanishad says there are panchakoshas or 5 sheaths. Just like a dagger or a sword is encased in a sheath, there are 5 sheaths. The outermost sheath is Annamaya Kosha, which is the sheath made of food. Because this body is after all a transformation of food. So how does one then get to know the true self? Through removing the identification of each of those koshas. So there is Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and beyond that Anandamaya kosha, is the true self, Atma, right? Residing like a sword sheathed in the scabbard, 5-fold scabbard. So there are, of course, the paths. So, and then Bhagavad Gita will enumerate these paths. Jnana Yoga. In fact, this whole Sankhya Yoga chapter is about Jnana Yoga. This is a direct knowledge, direct transmission. Another option that he will discuss later around chapter 6 is Raja Yoga. And then there will also come Bhakti Yoga. And necessarily, since we are a human being, there is always action, so Karma Yoga. Now, Karma Yoga is not automatically productive of Jnana, but Karma Yoga serves to purify the mind and make it ready for Jnana. This is an important thing to keep in mind. The first three are directly productive. Jnana, these three paths, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, lead to the same goal. Karma Yoga, everyone has to do. And what it does is it purifies the mind and makes it ready for any of these, particularly, one may say, for Jnana Yoga. Acha. Now, let us have another, I asked everyone to also say, what are your objectives in the class? Right? So, it's useful to clarify one important thing here and why this class is different from other classes. So, in most other classes you go to, right? Can you kind of describe what is it in a generic sense that you hope to gain when you go to any class?
Learn something new.
Right. You're looking to acquire a piece of knowledge or a skill. They're both, broadly speaking, we can say it's a kind of knowledge, right? Now, one important and peculiar thing about this path is that it's actually more about unlearning than learning. Because suppose there was this knowledge, so to speak, that was to be acquired, right? Make sense? So then, what would the state be? Before I acquire this knowledge, do I gain something, put something in my head? I'm ignorant. If I put something in my head, I become not ignorant. Okay? Wise, liberated, one with the self. But yet, it's also true that this knowledge has been there forever. It's the natural state. It is a state that is unchanging, etc. Right? So, a more productive way to look at this is you're not trying to fill your head with some knowledge. It is not that by learning every verse in the Gita, you're going to become, by putting that knowledge into your head, it's going to transform. It will transform, no doubt. But the transformation will be to then unlearn every wrong notion we have about ourselves. This is a subtle point. And that is why there are many paths. It is not just only Gita. There are people who didn't read the Gita itself who acquired the knowledge, right? Because it was only shedding their ignorance. There's a difference between putting something in or letting go of something. That is a misconception. So this is a very, very key point. And that is why it allows the Hindus and Sanatana Dharmis followers to say that this is not the only way. It is a very powerful way. It's a very transformative way. But it's not the only way because somebody can let go of those misconceptions through some other path also. Right? It is not that this only has to be put into your head. Right? I don't know. This is something worth thinking about. Right? So that when you when you ask yourself, well, what are my objectives of this class? And there were some very beautiful answers, which I will try and share with you. That's something you might keep in mind. So, okay. Let us go and read a few verses and then we will do a little switch here. 25. Verse 25. Avyakto ayam, achintyo ayam, avikaryo ayam uchyate, tasmad evam viditva enam na anushochitum arhasi. So, avyaktaha, unmanifest. Achintyaha, it cannot be thought of, it's imponderable. Avikarya, without any changes. Ayam uchyate, it is said to be such. So now you see how beautifully first Sri Krishna negated the outermost Annamaya Kosh. Now what is he negating? The inner, Pranamaya, Manomaya particularly, because he's saying it cannot be thought of it. It is beyond the realm of thought. And then also Vijnanamaya, right? In this way, it is showing you the connection between Upanishad and the Bhagavad Gita. Tasmat, and from this, knowing it to be such, viditva, knowing it, enam, this thing, no, you should not be grieving for it. So normally, why do we feel sorry for something? When do we feel sorry for anything? Yeah.
So if you do something.
Okay. All right. How about if you lose something that you like?
Usually, when it is not, we may have a thing for it, or thought for it, or any liking for it, or whatever it is not.
Yeah. Right.
Attachment.
Yeah.
Like it's a not feeling. There is not. The not is there. That's why we know.
Right. Right. Or sometimes another way to say it is there is a lacuna. Something is missing.
That's a not.
Not. Right. So. So by looking at this analysis, that it is, so if we associate most of our feelings of sorrow, let us try to think of that. So if you're unwell, it is a lack of health, good health, a lack in absence of good health. That creates definitely grief, sad feeling, right? But first Sri Krishna negated that. Self is not that. That is not your true self. So he says you should not grieve for it. Of course, he has said it, but then for us to internally understand it, we must know why we misidentify with the body. Right? Okay, and that is why I mentioned Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. These are mechanisms by which one can introspect, move inward, and understand this sort of misidentification. Right? Then next one he's saying it is achintya, right? It cannot be thought of. So the part of us that is maybe feeling this lacuna, that is attaching, is again a misidentification, is the import here, right? That is, if I think, so let us take a simple mental thing. We all love our family or somebody close by, right? That person is with us, they give us great delight, right? Two cases we feel sorrow. One is if they say something or behave in some way that hurts us. Right? Or two, if they go away. They're nice to you, but then they go away. Right? That absence creates a sorrow or a grief. Right? So this is something that is happening in the mind. Correct? So if you examine this feeling in the mind, who is the one who is feeling this sorrow? Right? Who is the one who's feeling this sorrow? So we say it is us. But if you think about it, let's observe it a little more carefully. Does that action or that consequence affect everybody the same way? No. Right? Somebody said something to you. If they said the same, if three other people were in the room listening, they're not affected the same way. Right? Or if your child or spouse goes away to another place, there are thousands of people in this city who are not affected by it at all. So then it is not I, but it is my role and relationship to that person that is causing that particular. It is because I have spent my mind, invested my mind so long in that connection that now it is causing that. The longer and longer you invest in something with the mind, the more the pain. Think about this. Okay, the longest held associations and attachments, that is why they say parents. Because parents are the very first experience you have when you come into the world. Right? Okay? Yes or no? So, whether your relationship with your parents is good or bad, it is very strong. Yes or no? That's why all of psychology is built on this. Freud made a lot of papers on this. But this our simple Bhagavad Gita also telling us the same thing. Right? Because from the day you took this human body, the two people you know for the longest time are your parents. So your mind has spent a lot of time associated, created deep impressions. They've also taught you many things. Father is the first guru. Mother is also the first guru, right? Then whether your relationship with them is good or bad, it is very strong. It will shake you, right? And that is why also it is wisely said that the departure of them from the physical plane also causes great disturbance to most people, right? It will definitely affect. Whether you're aware of it or not, it will affect. Right? So this business of, at least this much we can rationally, now there are limits to rationality and logic, but this much we can logically say that that particular event or whatever causes that grief is something that we can understand as caused by our particular role in relationship to that object and nothing else, really. Right? Because by inference, we see it is not affecting the other people at all, right? Yes or no? So this much we can grasp from it. So now, Sri Krishna gives a lot of opportunities for Arjuna. Now he says, one approach is to take that self is not changing, it is this eternal thing. Then he says, well, suppose I give you another easy way to understand this, right? That's the next verse. So, and Sri Adi Shankaracharya's commentary leading up to the next verse, granting for argument's sake the non-eternality of the self, the following observation is made. Athacha enam nitya jatam, nityam va manyase mritam, tathapi tvam mahabahu, na evam shochitum arhasi. So, athacha enam nitya jatam. If you think of this as being born eternally, all the time. Nityam va manyase mritam. Or you think that it is always dying. Even then, you should not be grieving for this. This is his logic. So he says, even if you think that the self is perpetually born and perpetually dies, still, O hero, you ought not to grieve for this. And why is that? Okay, that the next verse will answer. This next verse is a very powerful verse, and I do recommend it for memorizing. This is verse number 27. Jatasya dhruvo mrityuhu. So shall we recite together? Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha, tasmad apariharye arthe, natvam shochitum arhasi. So this is a very powerful verse. It says, the moment something is born, death is certain. Right? And the moment something dies, its rebirth is also certain. And because of this sort of inevitability, apariharya, there is no point in your grieving. And we can see this as a very good litmus test. Okay, so when somebody sits in meditation, and one of the most common experiences is you will read that in the early stages, there'll be attraction to these lights and visions and sounds in meditation. Right? All of these have a birth, so they must have a death. They are not the real thing, right? So this constantly, any skilled meditator will tell you that although they are experienced on the way, they have a birth, so they must have a death. So it's a good litmus test. That, and again, that's why I said, if you think you're putting in some knowledge that something has to be acquired, right? Then that would imply that there was a time when it was not there, and so there is a transformation, right? But if you only think of letting go of ignorance, then it makes more consistent sense with the eternal self. So, death is indeed certain for one who is born and for one who dies. Birth too is certain. Therefore, as regards this unavoidable sequence, you ought not to grieve. Now, of this, The first part everybody will agree with because it is common in human experience. The second part is not within the realm of common human experience. Right? So there, either Shraddha is Guru Vedanta Vakyadishu Vishwasaha Shraddha. Faith in the teachings of the Vedanta and the words of the Guru. Or, if that is not acceptable, direct experience. Go for it. Definitely, if you practice intense sadhana, if you do pranayam, if you do raja, you will know. There is nothing that you will know. 6 months. Discard everything. Sit in intense meditation. Control your breath. Follow the Yoga Sutra. You will know it. Your choice. Right? Easy way or hard way? Right? Fair enough? So that's all. Our texts are very logical and very reasonable, in my opinion. There's nothing unreasonable about them. They give you a choice. You choose whichever way you want. Wise people choose the path of Shraddha and Bhakti. They rapidly attain the goal. Right? The arrogant one like me did not choose the Shraddha and Bhakti. That's why I'm telling you now. You have two choices. Right? There is a hard way. And there is easy way. Right? Interesting, right? Acha. So, we'll do a little switch. Let's see what there is in the in our interesting. So last time, for those of you who missed, we were talking about. I said that teaching this class is somehow interesting. It's in a way like a university class, and in some ways it's not. Right? I told you some reasons. There you're learning something. Here I'm teaching you to unlearn something. But there are other useful analogies, right? Like last time we found that if you look at the class and we talked about mechanical engineering in various ways. So today I want to continue on that thing. So let's see what. So when I teach a class in the university, they say, before we start this class, it has a laboratory component, practical component. You must sign a lab safety sheet. You know this? So now I'll show what is the analogy here. Now in some of you have children and they go to school, right? Do you recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, it's very good.
It's really important. Hey, you're not supposed to. You're true American, no? You're born in this country. So do you know the Pledge of Allegiance? Yeah. So you have to say it every day, and you have to put your hand on your heart and say it. Okay. So when I started this class, I said, before we start this class, and I have still not learned how to turn off notifications on my computer, and I apologize. Okay. I said you must commit to not misrepresenting what you learn here. That is my lab safety sheet. Right? We do it unquestioningly at university, right? So I think it's not unreasonable. Then I said you must make a solemn resolution to protect Sanatana Dharma and Vedanta. That is the same thing as Pledge of Allegiance. You take Pledge of Allegiance so easily, but there's a lot of, not quickly, 500 people didn't raise their hand and say, I'll take this, this vrata. Why? You must examine. You must examine. Why? Why don't we want to do it? So let's go a little further. There is, so, you know, people ask me, we said Shahada. Shahada in Islam is the declaration of faith. And we think there is nothing in Hinduism, but it's not true. There is. There is in our own Sanatana Dharma, there is a very clear way to do this. And it is called Upanayana Samskara. You know what Upanayana Samskara? Upanayana means to bring close. Big misconception, People think it's only for Brahmins. No, wrong. Go and read Manava Dharma Shastra. It is intended for all Varnas other than Shudras. Who is a Shudra? One who is a pleasure seeker. If your only job in life is seeking pleasure, wherever you were born, in whatever family you were born, then sure, this is not for you. That is obvious, right? If you want to eat only 18 gulab jamuns every day, then you shouldn't have Upanayana Samskar. But if you are willing to eat 16 once in a while, okay, that is fine, right? So what is this Upanayana Samskar? Okay, unfortunately nowadays it is done the day before marriage, because the priest will say, if you don't have Upanayanam, I won't, if you don't have the Yajnapavitam, I will not do the Vivah. This is very sad. Okay, this is a very powerful and spiritual samskar. Okay, Upanayana means literally bringing close, right? Bringing close to your true self, bringing you close through the Guru, right? Upanayana. And that person who undergoes is called a Dvija. Dvija means twice born. Okay, so first birth is through the womb of the mother, right? Human birth, physical birth. Then in the beginning I told you there is this tantra of the worship, upasana of Ganesh, Devi, and then I mentioned to you there is this energy, this power coiled in all of us, this Kundalini, Shakti. When that Shakti awakens, that is the second birth. That is when the person is called Dvija, right? Because that person has a transformative spiritual experience, and it used to happen at a very young age for many people in this Bharatvarsh, right? Why else have there been so many saints born in Bharatvarsh? Because it was routinely happening at that age, early age, 6, 8, 10, right? That's why they were called Dvijas. Okay, it is difficult to conceive of a land in which there was so much spiritual power, but it was obviously there, because you would not have the consequences that you see today, right? All right. So now in this Upanayana Samskaram, the person is invested with Yajnopavita. It is called Janeyo, Punal, whatever, but its correct name is Yajnopavita. Now we are all doing this Yajna actually, all right? Every human being, whether it is American, Croatian, Armenian, they're all doing the same Yajna. Nobody can escape this Yajna. This Yajna is you're all pouring the senses into the objects of the senses into the fire of consciousness, into the senses, right? This is Yajna. And there is some fruit coming out of it, right? Everybody is doing it. What is the only difference? This person is doing the Yajna knowingly. See, I know this Yajna, right? I know what this Yajna I'm doing. In the Purusha Suktam, it comes Tasmahat Yajnat Sarvahutaha. It is the original Yajna of Purusha, consciousness, right? And who were the ones who did? The Devas. The Devas are the lords of the senses. They performed the first thing. They held this Purusha consciousness as a sacrificial animal, Pashu, right? And so this is the power of the heritage that you have, that thousands of years ago, just in the inner laboratory, the rishis pointed out that this is what is happening in your life, right? Everyone is doing a yajna. So they said, let us celebrate this yajna. Let us do it consciously, right? And then they invested people. What are these 3 threads? Nobody knows. Yajnopavit, right? If you went to the Pranamaya Kosha, then Yoga Sutra tells you there are 72,000 nadis, right? Of these nadis, there are 10 that are reckoned as very important. Of those 10, 3 more are reckoned as very, very important. Those are Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. Right? Now, the Pindanda is the individual human being, the microcosm. Brahmanda is the macrocosm. This Ida is your Ganga, Pingala is Yamuna, Sushumna is Saraswati. Saraswati is a river that is considered. Has anybody seen the Saraswati? No. Okay. Does everyone know the traveling of Prana and Sushumna? No. But that does not mean it does not exist. Right? It may not exist Saraswati may not exist in the physical plane. But what is to say that if you go to Pranamaya Kosha, you will not find Saraswati. You will find Saraswati. Right? So this Brahmanda Pindanda Aikyam, this connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm was seen by the rishis. All right? And they wrote all these things. And it is for us, each one, to rediscover on our own, because we cannot just rest on the laurels of the people who did this so long ago and say, oh, okay, I come from I was born in India. So big deal. What have you done with it? Right? Huh? Yes, there will be some benefit to being born in India, but you must also claim it. Correct? If you don't claim it, then it is just like he said, pledge of allegiance. You have to claim your Americanhood, man. Really. Huh? So, okay. So then this is the vrata. This is a vratam that the student takes. Now, this is all said in Sanskrit. So, somebody might mumbo jumbo, right? Sadly. But if we understand the meaning, what is this vrata? Let us read. Okay. He says, actually, I could not copy the Sanskritam. Let me try to see if I can find it. It will be nicer to see it in the original. Oh, I have to escape, I think. There is a very good website called samskaram.com, which actually gives all these things. So let us read this one. I will try to read it for you. Smritam cha me, asmritam cha me, tanma ubhayam vratam. Ninda cha me, aninda cha me, tanma ubhayam vratagum. Shraddha cha me, ashraddha cha me, tanma ubhayam vratam. Vidya cha me, avidya cha me, tanma ubhayam vratagum. Shrutancha me, asrutancha me, tanma ubhayam vratagum. Satyancha me, anrutancha me, tanma ubhayam vratam. Tapascha me, atapascha me, tanma ubhayam vratam. Vratancha me, avratancha me, tanma ubhayam vratam. Yat brahmananam brahmani vratam. Yad agne sendrasya sa prajapatikasya sadevasya sa devarajasya sa manushyasya sa manushyarajasya sa pitrikasya sa pitrurajasya sa gandharvas saraskasya apsaraskasya yanma atmana atmani vratante nahagum sarva vrato bhuyasam. So that is how it is said. What does it mean? I shall remember what is important, like fairly, approximate translations, but it's okay. I shall forget what I should not read. I shall forget what I should not retain. I shall praise what is good. I shall praise what is not. I shall not praise what is not. I shall concentrate on good things. I shall move away from bad things. I shall learn only good things. I shall shun knowledge of the wrong things. I shall hear good things. I shall not hear the bad things. I shall abide by the truth. I shall not be false. I shall meditate, do tapas when I am fit. I shall not when I am unfit. I shall be austere when I should, and I shall not be when I should not. I shall recite my lessons when told to. I shall withdraw when told not. The vratas of the Brahmanas regarding the Vedas of Indra, of Agni, of Prajapati, of Devas, and the Devarajas, of Manushyas, of the kings, of the Pitras, and the Pitrarajas, of the Gandharvas, and of the Apsara shall be regarded by me as my vratas. I shall, as a brahmachari, undertake all these vratas and complete them successfully. Right? So this vrata is being taken, should be taken. Right? Yes.
So if you go to the previous slide,
Mm-hmm.
So who gives guidance on what is good, what is not good?
So before that, he has pledged to the Guru, who is the Upaneta, the one drawing him close. He accepts the Guru first. Okay. And then the Guru accepts him as disciple. So then, that's why we say Guru Vakyam. Then if Guru says, you should do, you should not do.
So you start this discussion saying this is the equivalent of saying this is the statement that we have regarding being a Hindu. Is that right? So in a practical sense, we have not, each one of us has probably not established a Guru in that context.
That's
or
right.
Maybe we have. That's so. Right. So how do we, on an individual basis?
That's a very good point. Right. So I think, first of all, at least some of us, many of us have had Upanena Samskara. Right? The samskar was done. Yes or no? Right? So there is nothing wrong if that is understood later, right? But every time when one does the Sandhya Vandanam, right, which is the consequence of doing this samskar, slowly the mind becomes prepared to take this birth form, right? So with a certain solemnity, you may either seek outside in the outside world, or one may take a guru inside in one's heart and follow, right? These are perfectly acceptable methods. But the beginning has to come, and it has to come from somewhere in the heart. Right? Does that make sense? At some level, I mean, coming to this Gita class is a beginning, right? It is making us examine these things again, right? All I'm trying to say is, it is not true that in our tradition there is no breath. That's all the point I'm trying to make.
But
Yes.
generally what I observed is this Upanayan and Sanskar is done for boys only, not
Yes.
for the girls.
Yes.
So is that true, or is it applicable to everyone?
So that's a very good question. So in fact, there is documentation of actually Sita herself doing Sandhya. And so there is a particular tradition that establishes that Upanaya Samskar was also done for ladies at one point in history. Not in common practice of late, right? But however, women are not excluded from the practices, in the sense of, in current day practice, typically at least some puja instruction is given to women, right? Women do pujas. Women are also, when qualified, eligible for mantra diksha, right? So I can tell you, in our traditions that I'm aware of in the South, we have something called Varalakshmi Vrat, right? And the tradition is that the mother-in-law will initiate the daughter-in-law into that vrat. So there is initiation for women also into vrat, right? It is just different. It may not be, historically there is evidence that it was parallel. More recently, there is maybe not that evidence that it's parallel, but there is always initiation, and women are not excluded from it at all. In the end, it's a peculiar thing. We are taking on an identity in order to dissolve all our identities. Think of this. This is the most powerful secret of Hinduism. When you say I'm a Sanatana Dharmi, you take on an identity, but that identity will dissolve all your identities. Is it something you can think of?
No, I'm not able to get the point you're making.
Okay, so most identities that we take, we hold on to, and they sort of deepen our sort of role playing or identity in the world, right? But there is this one identity of being a Sanatana Dharmi, by which we are saying, I am wanting to know my true self, which is eternal, etc. And the path to that is to dissolve all your identities. Right? So it is the one unique identity that is worthy of taking on in order to dissolve all the other identities. Right? Most other identities you take on, they dig you deeper. If you have a child, you're a father. Then you'll have grandchildren. There's no escape. Or something else, right? It will dig you deeper and deeper. But you put this one on, and it will dissolve all the others. Right? So, I will send you some maybe thoughts on that down the line. So we talked a little bit about it. But I'm not ignoring your point of practicality. And I think that's maybe something that can be very good outcome of this. We can discuss more to see how to practically implement some of these things in today's age. So here is something that I would say is an Ananta Vratam. Ananta means an unending Vratam, right? So I will say the first one, and then if you want, you can follow the second one, and the translation is given here, right? So I will just say it, and you listen to it, and you see how you feel in your heart. Right? So how do we in Sanatana Dharma affirm this concept of Rita and our dedication, right? So there is a verse that goes like this in the Veda. Om Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi. Tvameva pratyaksham brahma vadishyami. Ritam vadishyami. Satyam vadishyami. Tanmam avatu. Tad vaktaram avatu. Avatu mam. Avatu vaktaram. Okay. So if you understand this verse, and maybe I make the mistake sometimes, I think that it's automatically. Namo Brahmane. This is a prayer. A direct prayer to Brahman. Namaste Vayu. I'm praying to you in the form of Vayu. Because why? There is nothing more subtle than air. Of all the elements, beyond air, you go to space, Akash. Akash, nobody can conceive of through touch or anything. Vayu is the subtlest physical element that a human being can access. Namaste Vayu. Tvameva pratyaksham brahmas. Pratyaksham in front of my eyes. Right? You are that form of Brahman right in front of my eyes. Tvameva pratyaksham brahma. Tvameva, to you only, pratyaksham brahma vadishyami. I will call you as Brahman. Right? Ritam vadishyami. I told you what Rita is. This eternal law. Ritagam satyam param brahma. Satyam vadishyami. In the human world, I will speak the truth. Tan mamavadu. May that protect us. Tad vaktaram avadu. May it protect the one who is the speaker. Right? Usually this being said between Guru and Shishya. Shishya, when repeating, also asks for the protection of his Guru. Right? So, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti mantra should follow at the end. So this is one kind of. Now what is in our traditional Sanatana Dharma, we take something called Sankalpam. Okay. So Sankalpam, it is traditionally done placing hand like this. Okay. So what is a Sankalpam? Sankalpam is any good intention. Okay. You may have a good intention. I want my child to be well educated. It's a Sankalpam, right? So first the thought arises in there. I want my child to be well. Then what do you do next?
Facilitate it.
You facilitate it. You send the child to school. You gather, put money in 529 account so you can save for college. You go and parent-teacher conference. You meet. All this is done, right? But the first thought is the source, is the root of everything. There must be a Sankalpam. So what I'm saying is, if we don't do the Sankalpam, then how will, in some inchoate way, it may arise, right? But this is a conscious way. Again, it's paying homage to the fact that as human beings, we are conscious, rational creatures, right? So this Sankalpam. So how do we do this? So I will say, and then you can, if you want, you can recite with me, or you can read the, if you want, you can say the translation, or if you don't want, then that's also fine, right? This is how it is said. Mamopata samasta durita kshayadvara Shri Parameshwara Prityartham Sanatana Dharma Rakshasya Tadangam Vedamata Rakshasya Ananta Vratam Adya Karishye. That is how we say, right? Does it make sense? So what it says is, Samasta Durita is all my sins. But in sin, in Hinduism has to be understood as ignorance. In Hinduism, ignorance is sin. Samasta Durita Kshayadvara. In order for it to be decayed, so that all my ignorance is decayed. Remember I said, by Gita, we are not going to put a big bulk of knowledge into your head. You're going to remove your misconceptions, remove those ignorances. Sri Parameshwara, there is an acceptance here that there is a great Lord. Human beings give themselves title Lord in England, but there is a great Lord, who's Lord of all the Lords, right? Sri Parameshwara. Prityartham, in order to please this great Lord. Sanatana Dharma Rakshasya, in order for the Raksha of this Sanatana Dharma. Tadangam, and in addition to that Vedamata Raksha, right? Ananta Vratam is an eternal vow. Not to be taken flippantly, right? It's an eternal vow. Adya, right now, I do. That's what you're committed to, hopefully with your heart. Now let's look at some more things. In the Pledge of Allegiance, what is the cost of not fulfilling the vow? Do you know? Okay, I have written here, this is from the United States Code. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death, or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office of leadership. This is what you send your children to every day in school, and you make them commit to this. Do you know that? Think about that for a moment. Right? What I'm saying is, we are very willing to do a lot of things in the real world, in the physical world, but why not we commit to our original law, right? So there is always a cost for taking a vow and breaking it, right? The costs are very severe in the physical world, okay? But there are costs even in the spiritual world, right? Therefore, the point of the cost is to not make somebody scared or necessarily, but for Sattvic people, they will not breach the limit. They will not. You see, if a person had been instructed in the Bhagavad Gita with all this background, right? Do you think we would now have those statements I showed you earlier in this class about the Gita? Right? In the past, it was like that. When a person exceeded these limits, right, there was excommunication. If you live in a village and there are 100 people, and if you're thrown out of the village community, you cannot survive. Right? But as things got globalized, right, some of those things, now, there are pluses and minuses to anything that man invents, right? It's true. There are negative consequences of that also. But right now, what we are seeing is, we are seeing unfortunate negative consequences of good things, right? Things that can uplift and ennoble people have become trashed because there was not an awareness that we must bring people to this study who are sattvic in nature, who have a nice nature, who have a helpful nature, who have a good nature, who are self-sacrificing, who are having faith, who will not go out and say stuff that they know will upset other people's minds, right? That's the whole point, right? So that is why I keep emphasizing this Anantavara. Now, there is another very beautiful verse, which I think is worth for us to know. You might know this already. Have you seen this one before? If you go to Giri Traders is a purveyor of all things puja related in South India. Now they are all over India. I think even Bombay is there. And Giri Traders, you buy this bag from Giri Traders, they say, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita. We have seen. Okay? Dharma protects the one who protects it. Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita. Now it's part of this verse. Dharma eva hato hanti. Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita. Tasmat dharmo na hantavyo. Mano dharmo hato avadhit. So what does this mean? Dharma eva hato hanti. Those who are slain by dharma alone. What does this mean? This is a complicated thing to understand. So I told you, we have observed in our short lifetime that any human being who suffers human birth dies. Jatasi dhruva mrityu, right? So we may say it's the dharma of the body to die, right? Nobody can prevent it. It's a dharma. It's a natural law, right? Anything that forms these 5 elements, panchbhut, at some point, it goes back to those 5 elements, right? It coalesces together, forms a body, and goes back. It's a dharma. So it is dharma that slays those who are slain, right? So dharma of the body. Dharma eva hato hanti. Dharmo rakshati rakshita. It protects those who protect it. Tasmat, therefore, dharmo na hantavya. Let us not kill dharma, or in that sense, violate it. Mano dharmo hato, so that this slain dharma should then come and kill us. Okay? So that is the meaning here. It is dharma indeed that slays the slain. Dharma protects those who protect it. Therefore, dharma should never be slain or killed or injured, so that slain dharma should not slay us. That's the full meaning of this verse. So now you understand what I'm trying to say, that the intent of this book was to help people. It was to uplift people. It is to it's an investigation of our true nature. So to then go and disparage it is the slaying of dharma, right? And it will have its consequences. You will see in time. Okay, so couple of here is an interesting. Hey, Shailesh, do you know this? What is this picture about? Who is this guy? Close, but not. Kalidas. Kalidas. Right? Remember Kalidas? This is taken from Amachya. You've not read Kalidas? You should come and read it. If I have it at my place, you can have it, or we'll get it. Okay. So, what is the story of Kalidas in this particular to this thing? Anyone remember?
He was cutting the branch, he was sitting down.
Right. So everybody thought he was the village idiot, right?
Yes.
Who will cut the branches? Now, when we started this class, I said, how many of you are Sanatana Dharmis or Hindus? Right? Okay. If you're born in a Hindu family, right? No, Hindu family is the tree. You're that branch. Okay. If you start denying I am a Hindu, how intelligent are you? Tell me. How intelligent are you?
So the issue is, do we understand, and even I still don't understand, we had the whole class, last class we had the whole class, who is Hindu?
Right.
And am I Hindu, why am I Hindu, kind of thing. But still, I don't have an answer.
Aha.
So that's the biggest problem. Sanatana, what is Sanatana? We don't understand. So what are we what are we saying? Sanatana, what are we, what is Sanatana? That's where the question keeps on going in the mind.
Right. So, but then as I said, I gave you provisional definition.
Yes.
Right. So I think the idea is to try and respond to that, to see, does this make sense to me? What aspects of it does it? So the questioning approach is good, but it must be implemented and refashioned in your own thinking, right? Correct?
So we were in a Christian service today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it was Christian, why it was not a Hindu service.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing, just Jesus Christ, Savior, Lord. If you put any of our Hindu things there, Jesus Christ may be Guru, then Bhagwan, or kuch bhi kato.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing there.
So in the beginning, I gave you a few differences. Did I not? You remember?
Yes.
Very convincing.
See, the problem is for us, Ajnanis, everything you say is convincing. Then the other guy, what he was saying was also convincing. They are Ajnani. हमें तो कुछ भी समझाता हम तो पढ़ लेते.
I love it. That's a lovely comment. Right. But yes and no, right? I mean, so we have this concept called Vivek. What do you understand by Vivek? Discrimination.
तो वहाँ पे मैंने ये अपना 2:23 बोला वहाँ पे. नैनम शब्दंती शस्त्राणि नैनम दत्ति पाव के आज मैं बोल के आया.
हाँ, beautiful.
और उसका जो भी इंटरनेट बोलता है उसका अनुवाद भी करके आया. तो मैंने कहा आप जितना हमारे कलीग की डेथ हुई उसका फ्यूनरल था तो उसमें सब बोल रहे थे तो मैंने कहा मैं भी आपको एक हिंदू प्रेयर बोल देता हूँ या हिंदू हो. तो वहां पे मैंने बोला कि आई एम अ बॉर्न हिंदू. आई डोंट नो फ्रॉम देयर ऑन. I still don't know that. I could not commit that I am a Hindu. I am a born Hindu. And this is what Gita says.
Right.
And they were talking about soul and other things. And I said, okay, this is the prayer. So I spoke in Sanskrit. फिर भगवान उनकी आत्मा को शांति दे हिंदी में बोल के फिर then I translated it for the whole audience.
Right.
कुछ difference नहीं.
कुछ difference between what and what?
What वो लोग जो बोल रहे थे सिर्फ मैं वो जो Jesus Christ को बोल रहे थे तो मैं गुरु जी को बीच में रख देता.
So all I'm saying is this, right? There are two ways to touch your nose. One is like this. One is like this. Okay. If you are born in a tradition, which is the easiest way? Yes.
I guess I'm so I can't. I know it's Rakshat talking. Right? So what is the question is because there are, I think we agree there are similar. You said there are multiple paths to attain the same. So there are some similarities in how people do things across the world with Hinduism, with other things. So there's nothing wrong with that. So because there are similarities does not make us all the same, I guess is the question. I may be similar, but I'm not the same. Those are two completely different things. So I don't know why we need to feel the justification to say that yes, I'm a Hindu simply because there's some similarities with Christianity or anything else. So that's often I feel the source of possible confusion. Oh, it sounds very similar. So they are happily able to say, like I think Shankar mentioned, confidently I'm a Christian. They may not know what they're talking about. It's a different thing. They're able to state it, right? So that minimum level of confidence, I don't think is too much to expect for us to state it. We may not fully understand it. That is true. And that's part of the reason why we come to classes like this. Each of us will explore it in our own way. But I think it's a fair point. I mean, I'm guilty of the same thing. I don't go. It's not like we are being asked to plant a flag outside our house that says I'm a Hindu. Come and talk. That's a different thing. I think it's okay to have similarities, and you will find similarities, right? So I suppose we have to figure out. We have to rationalize that we can be similar, but we are certainly not the same.
So to further this point, the question is like we are taking a pledge. I'm here. I want to learn more about it. I want to be a better human or peaceful and all those things. So the whole idea, I think, for us all, and some may not be speaking, but we need to understand what is Sanatana Dharma in very, very common thing, not what is something different and all those, but and what are we pledging allegiance to. In one way, we are pledging allegiance to it. But we are pledging allegiance. We are simply by hearing it. Coming here is a pledging allegiance kind of a thing.
Yes.
So when that clarity comes in mind, I think these things will come out much, much better. That's what I am learning.
I agree with you.
Because when the point was raised about Yajnaparit, I come from a lower, in traditional Indian caste system, I come from a lower caste, right? So we did not have access to any of these things. Yajnaparit, हमारे यहाँ कभी कुछ किसी ने समझाया भी नहीं कि कुछ होता है. And what we thought or what we were trained is इनमें कुछ नहीं रखा देखा ये ब्राह्मणों का किया हुआ उनको अपना पैसा चाहिए.
Yes.
So nobody had any Yajnaparit, कोई हमारा जनेऊ नहीं है कोई कुछ.
I completely agree with you, and this is a failure of our system. It's a failure of our system. I completely agree with you. Over the years, see any system, it has to be constantly watered. Like you take a garden, right? Usme weeds cut karna padta hai. You have to put water. You have to fertilize. And now I will completely agree that that's a huge failure.
That is a smriti, right? That's what you're talking about. So those things have not adapted or evolved with the changing times.
And people who were involved in those things have not actively done that. You're very right. And I encounter this with a lot of people, right? And that is truly, collectively, we have to take the blame for that, And so what I feel is in our own small way, by each of us making sincere effort, not keeping those distinctions, right? Because that was never there. I'll give you so many examples from our Shruti. You've heard of Satyakama Jabal in the Upanishads, right? He didn't know his father was. And he went to the sage. Yes?
Very, very good story.
Right. Then, so this is from age old. In fact, one joke that is always made of Shiva is, he's the one who doesn't have Gotra. Shiva is Agotra. Right? In fact, in the Shiva Puran, when the marriage proposal is made, there is a lot of objections. How can you marry this guy who doesn't even know what his Gotra is? Right? So these are meant to bring into the mind that the system exists for a purpose, but clinging too much to the system and forgetting the purpose is going to lead you to unpleasant or an undesirable situation, right? So I completely agree. And this, so, it brings us to the next point. It becomes rich living if everybody is engaged in it, if everybody is welcomed into it, everybody is brought in the right. Don't you think? Right? So this is definitely a limitation. Right? And to that extent, democratizing sincere people who have in their heart, that's all that is needed. Sincerity. The qualities are not actually any other than that you cannot decide that is by birth, right? You can only decide by that interaction, right? So that is what I would say.
Because this is such a beautiful text.
Yes.
Like amazingly beautiful text. And at 51 years of age, we are trying to know about it. So that's and we have always listened to it, looked at it. घर में poster होते थे, but what was
right? And that is true. It is a good approach. But all I will say is we can have faith that let's not worry about what has gone by. This instant onwards, if one takes a positive attitude, as I said right at the beginning, just as we tell our children, if they say, will I be able to do this? No, you will be able to. Why not? Why not? This is the question I ask in return to you. If you determine that I will know Sanatana Dharma for myself, I will have you're already doing it. You're going and as an ambassador of Sanatana Dharma, you gave a very nice speech at your recent event, right? So already that's happening, is what I'm saying. The transformation is already happening. Slowly in time, the conviction will also come, right? Why not? I definitely think it's possible. Achha. So let us, probably we are close to time. So, Jata Sihi Dhruvo Mrityu. I think next verse is a very, very profound verse and a very, very beautiful verse. 28. So this I just plan to read out. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharatam avyakta nidhanan yeva tatra ka paridevana. Avyakta, so unmanifest. The beginning of beings is unmanifest. Avyaktadi, adi is the origin of all these beings that you see is unmanifest. Vyakta madhyani bharata, so they come into manifestation, middle state, in the middle state. Avyakta nidhanani, their end is also unmanifest. So then what is the, so the analogy here is, a good analogy is, say the waves on the ocean, right? So the ocean is water, it's not changing. But every time the wave comes, the wave rises out of the ocean, right? In the beginning, the wave has no form. If the ocean is calm, there is no wave, unmanifest. The waveness is unmanifest. Wave comes out and then it subsides back into the ocean, right? So in the same way, this entire thing we call creation manifests and then subsides, right? Back into the unmanifest. So then for that sheer thing of the manifestation and unmanifestation, or you go to a cinema, the movie starts, at the end of the cinema, we all know, no, you don't find people normally crying their hearts out that the cinema is over. They may cry about some emotional event in the cinema, but the fact that the cinema is over, Shailu, have you cried a lot when movies are over? Maybe Batman. I'm joking. But obviously, what I'm saying is as you grow older, you don't cry about movie getting over. Right? So in the same way, the analogy here is that this emergence and re-subsidence into the unmanifest is what we see in, and it at least insofar as the physical world, you can attest to that. Right? You can all attest to that. So, but this is a very deep verse. It's a verse that meaning becomes really clear in meditation, and so. But it's a verse that one can revisit and understand in many different levels. I gave you one simple interpretation. So with that, I'll say our Shanti Mantram, and then we will have some more discussion for next time. Om Tacham Yora Vrinimahe Gatum Yajnaya Gatum Yajnapataye Daivihi Swastirastu Naham Swastirmanushabhyah Urdhvam Jigatu Bheshajam Shanno Astu Dvipadehe Sham Chatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.